90 years ago, Los Angeles chief engineer of the Department of Water and Power was determined to supply the ever-growing desert community of Los Angeles with its most vital resource, water. William Mulholland, born in Belfast, Ireland in 1855, moved to Southern California with his brother Hugh when he was 15 years old. Mulholland had later become a leader in engineering after years of being self-taught and moving through the ranks of Los Angeles Water and Power. He had earned his reputation after engineering projects that were built under budget and ahead of schedule. The Los Angeles Aqueduct was considered his crowning achievement, a 6-year effort that ran 200 miles across the desert, bringing water to Los Angeles through man-made pipes and canals. At the aqueduct's grand opening on November 5, 1913, Mulholland said to the people of Los Angeles, "There it is, take it." Because of the rapid growth and droughts in the area, Mulholland sought alternatives for backup reserves of water. Mulholland spearheaded the effort to create his most ambitious project yet. Located 45 miles north of Los Angeles in San Francisco Canyon, construction of the St. Francis Dam began, an ambitious but tragic project. The dam opened in May of 1926, just 2 years after breaking ground at the site. She stood 205 feet tall and 150 feet thick at its base. It carried 12.5 billion gallons of water and was 2.5 miles long in length, a 1-year reserve of water for the city of Los Angeles. It was March 12, 1928, and things began to take a turn for the worse. Dam keeper Tony Harnischberger calls Mulholland with urgency, stating there was dirty water running through the dam's crest.
There was a new leak on the western abutment, and it was showing it was muddy. And that means that it would have been undercutting the dam, which could lead to the failure.
One of the many warnings that Mulholland didn't find alarming. Later that day, 2 minutes before midnight, dozens of workers at Powerhouse 1 wake up after hearing a crash echoing through the canyon. St. Francis Dam had failed. 12 billion gallons of water were released, a wall of rushing water standing 125 feet high, destroying everything in its path, all the way to Ventura.
They called us and told us that the dam had broken. And everybody came over to our house, and they were all sitting there discussing, well, it cannot be possible. It's only been completed for about a week. No way. And so the men said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go out and drive up along the river and see if we see any water coming. And Dad said they stepped outside and they could hear it coming.
And our nearest neighbor, who was half a mile away, came up, woke us up, told us what was going on, and all 4 of us, Mother, Dad, my sister, and myself, went out and listened in the middle of the road, just listened to the roar.
Farms and ranches were either heavily damaged or destroyed, while entire homes were lifted off their foundations. Over 7,000 acres of agricultural landscape were destroyed, including citrus and walnut trees. Livestock were either swept away or drowned trying to escape their pens. Unidentified bodies were found as far as Catalina Island and San Diego, and entire families were consumed by the floodwaters. There were many accounts of what happened, including Henry Ivan Dorset, whose sister Lillian Curtis and her husband Lyman were living at Power Station 1, just down the road from the base of the dam break. She recalls the water clipping at her ankles, soaking her nightgown, while rocks and dry weed were bruising and cutting her bare feet in the pitch black of night. She looked down to see if Lyman had made it. He was gone, along with their 2 daughters, Maisie and Marjorie.
And when I run over to the car, why, here's my sister in the back seat. It was a sedan. And when I opened the door, she started to cry, and she was saying, "Ivan, this is all that is left of my family."
Funerals from Newhall all the way to Santa Paula took place, gathering visitors, including William S. Hart, to pay their respects to the victims' families.
Stood there and looked at that hunk in the middle, and I thought, good grief, both sides of the dam is gone, and here's this piece in the middle. I just was amazed. I couldn't believe that it had happened.
He said they didn't want people to have to be reminded of it. So it was dynamited A, for safety, and B, to try to start to bury the memory of it. Because not only the center structure was dynamited, but a lot of the larger blocks downstream were dynamited and reduced to rubble, and actually tried to contour to look like what the rest of the area looks like.
Experts say the dam's failure was due to poor engineering and geological misreading. Investigations into the dam's collapse led to the creation of a set of laws to ensure that a tragedy like this would never happen again. Groups from local communities came together, including the Red Cross, Boy Scouts, local high school students, and even Calvin Coolidge, serving his last year as President of the United States, offered the Army's services to help with relief efforts. Major newspapers including the San Francisco Chronicle, the Los Angeles and New York Times, and countless others covered the story. William Mulholland was devastated by the tragedy and took full responsibility for the dam's failure and paid in total $5 million in response to the victims' claims. He lived the rest of his life in seclusion. The St. Francis Dam collapse is considered the worst man-made civil engineering disaster of the 20th century, claiming the lives of more than 400 people.